Hi and thanks for tuning in. In this week's video I'm going to be looking at the basics of planting a tree. Now we're getting towards the end of October and it's a really good time to plant trees because as they go into that dormancy period you're not then tied or chained, if you like, to watering the trees over the coming months. But not only is it about timing, this whole process is about getting some of the basics right, and that's something I want to focus on today. So the first and foremost thing you have to think about is the site itself. Is it suitable and is it going to lend itself to the tree that you're going to plant here? Not just on the short term, but really we're thinking of years down the line when this tree you're planting now is going to fill that space and ultimately become the full-size tree. So the site here is open, we've got trees a few meters away but they're not going to encroach on the space, and you've got plenty of room up above. One of the most important things you need to do with a young tree is give it the space that it needs so that it's not competing with too many other plants. This is a tree going into a grassy area, so the first thing you have to do is remove a generous space around where the tree is going to be planted. In this instance, I don't actually have to do that because there was a tree here earlier in the summer, a young tree that unfortunately died when we had a really intense period of dry weather. So what I'm going to do is put the tree I'm going to plant now into the space where that tree was. So now you've removed the turf to plant your tree. In terms of the size of hole you want to dig, try and make it twice the size of the root ball of that tree, i.e. the plastic pot that it's likely to be growing in. I do appreciate though in the real world it's not always possible to dig a hole that big. In our case we're surrounded by limestone, so once you get down about 6 inches you hit the rock, so that dictates how far you can dig a hole. But stick to those rules and you can't go wrong in terms of twice the space. So the tree I'm going to plant here is a pear tree, and this is a good hardy variety with a fabulous name called Invincible Delwynor. It does really well in the north of England where our winters don't sometimes lend themselves to other cultivars of pear tree. There's an awful lot to talk about with fruit trees, and that's something I'm going to have to tackle in a future video because we don't have time today. But the main thing you're looking for in any tree, whether it's a fruit tree or whether it's an ornamental tree, is a good, healthy, ideally not too pot-bound tree, i.e. when you take it out of the plant pot the roots are a warren of congested roots. If it looks good, if it looks healthy, it probably is, and if it looks less than good, it looks a bit weak, then follow your gut. It's the best thing that you can use in this situation. So what I have to do is now take it out of the pot, and it's at this point where you need to obviously ascertain, check the roots and make sure everything's looking healthy. So carefully holding it by the base of the stem, lift it away from the pot and have a look just to see what's happening. And this is great because this is quite a freshly potted tree, so there's not masses of roots, there's nothing to tease there. When I mean tease, that means when you take the roots and you prise them away from the main soil. So this looks good, and now I'm going to sort of position it in the centre of the hole. And it's not only about checking, getting the position right, it's also getting the height right because it doesn't want to be too proud of the planting hole. So what you do is you take your spade, you sit it across the top of the hole that you've got, and that gives you the ground level from the handle. And that wants to essentially run along the top of the compost, the root ball of that tree. I can't play around with this very much because I'm on rock, so through luck and perseverance it's just about the right height. You'll probably have to adjust that yourself, particularly if you're fortunate enough to have a better depth of soil to work with. And now it's in the right position, in the right height. The next stage is to now introduce that soil back into the hole that I dug out earlier. Okay, so now we're going to take the soil that we dug out earlier, put it back in around the tree, firming it lightly as we go. Don't push hard on the actual root ball of the tree itself. And then once it's filled with that soil, to mulch it with some homemade compost, which is the last thing you do in the process. It will give the tree some feed in the long term. Now, one thing you'll have to think about with the tree is whether it needs staking or not. Now, this is a very short tree, it's stocky, it doesn't warrant one. But if your tree is taller, and particularly if you're in a more exposed site, then you will have to think about that. And I'm going to be looking at staking trees properly in future videos for you. So the last thing is to give this tree a good drink. I'd envisage this being the only time you have to give it a good drink now, because we're into October and very shortly this tree is going to lose its leaves and therefore it's not going to need any more water. I'm going to be planting lots of different trees and shrubs over the coming months, so to make sure you don't miss out on any of that, why not hit the subscribe button.